on, guys? Welcome back to another video. First, want to say sorry about the cut and swelling on my lip. I got hit in the face with a hockey stick the other day, so I had to get some stitches, but we're healing from that. We got a good one for you today. So previously I made a tutorial talking about creating a 3D face mask or a helmet from scratch using ZBrush and then tracking it onto your face. Well, today we're going to make a more beginner focused tutorial around that concept. I'm going to show you an easier way, some free methods to create some 3D face masks, to customize these 3D assets. I'm still going to show you how to track the masks onto your face in After Effects, but I'm also going to show you how you can create Instagram and Snapchat filters out of your creations. So you'll be able to upload this to your social media. Your followers can download, try it out for themselves. So a cool way to share it. Hope you're excited about that. We're going to be using a free software called Spark AR to pull that off. And please don't be intimidated about any of this 3D stuff. I know a lot of you, it may be very new, but we're going to talk about a lot of free softwares, a lot of very easy methods to get things done. So let's hop right into it. We're going to go and search for our assets and let's get started. We're going to make some cool stuff today. All right, guys, so the first thing you want to do for this workflow is figure out what 3D software you're going to be using. So let's talk about some of the easier ones, some of the ones that are free. So if you want to follow along with the portion of this video where we track it onto our face in After Effects, you're going to need Element 3D. It's a plugin from Video Copilot. A lot of you who are watching this probably already have it. It's extremely easy to use. You just create a new solid like this. Once you've installed Element 3D, you just plop it on the solid. In your effect controls, you click scene setup and you're ready to start importing in your 3D objects and then tracking them onto your face. That's how I'm going to show it in this tutorial. I'm also going to be using Cinema 4D to customize any of the 3D models if we need to. If you guys don't want to get Cinema 4D, you can get Blender, which is 100% free. I highly recommend it. Even if you guys are only watching this tutorial for the end part, which shows the Spark AR and creating the Instagram filters, I recommend you at least download Blender for free, just so you're able to change around your 3D models and customize them if you want to. And again, if you're a beginner, please do not be intimidated by this. If you're new to 3D, you guys can still do what we're doing by taking baby steps, by using these 3D softwares just to import in 3D model. Every little thing works. And then there's also ZBrush, which is what I used in that older tutorial I made. I made a 3D mask and sculpted it from scratch. If you're interested in that longer format, link down below. So you have the 3D software that you want to use. Now you need some 3D assets. And this is another thing that I made a full video tutorial on, where to find 3D assets, and specifically free 3D assets. So this full tutorial will talk about the best places. If you guys are just looking to grab something fast, I recommend you go to TurboSquid, CG Trader, Free 3D. All the links are of course in that video. And now you just need to figure out what you want to get. So I'm going to look up sci-fi helmet, and I'm going to search by free, and then you guys can start downloading. You want to make sure whatever you're downloading is an OBJ or an FBX file. And of course, if you're able to download just the exact project file for whatever you want, that's even better. So you'll see some of these have Cinema 4D project files, Unity, 3ds Max. Some of these are going to be FBXs. If you guys have the Element 3D plugin, go ahead and download an OBJ or an FBX and just start importing it in. So if you're trying to use Element 3D to start off, keep in mind that Element 3D only works with OBJ or C4D files. So if you need to open it up in a 3D software, again, Blender you can get for free just to do your converting. I'm going to open it in C4D and I'm just going to export it as a C4D project file. Let's go ahead and open up that 3D file. So this one right here, sci-fi helmet. I'm going to click use auto normals and click OK. You'll see this is really big. So the first thing you always want to do in Element 3D, you want to click normalize size. This will be in the first little menu here. Now we can zoom in and this will be properly fit how we want. Let's also kind of flip this around because it's upside down right now. So I'll just click flip Y and there you go. We have our little sci-fi helmet all within Element 3D. If you guys have any of these preset shaders, or you can even make your own material from scratch, you can just start dropping those on and designing the look and feel of your helmet. Again, this is going to be very beginner focused, so we're not going to get too in-depth into customization. If you want to do some basic changing, you can of course just open up this little drop down, select the material, and then you can change around in here your diffuse color, which is essentially just what color it is. You guys can also load in a little environment, which is just going to add some realistic reflections onto the 3D model. You guys can mess around with that if you like. That's looking pretty cool. Let's click OK just so you guys can see this within After Effects now. I'm going to right click down here and I'm going to go to new and I'm going to create a camera. And now if you click C on your keyboard, you can cycle through the different camera controls. You can rotate this, you can move left and right, You can zoom in and out, and you can really check out what these 3D models are all looking like. And that's really how easy it is to get going all in Element 3D. All right, so now that you have your 3D assets all designed and set up, here's a quick reminder on how to track it onto your face in After Effects. I also want to say, if you're only planning on creating the filter, you don't want to use it in After Effects, then you can skip past this part. Just use the timestamps below to go to the part where we turn this into a facial filter. But either way, let's hop right into Adobe After Effects and start tracking. So let me show you how to track it onto your face. And then once we've done that, once you guys have that good basic understanding of how to get these things working together and set up properly, then we'll go back and we'll talk about customizing this. So let's set up our track. I'm going to go to my project bin and I'm going to create a new composition here. I've actually already made it, so I'll just tab over here. And in this composition, this is where you're going to place your footage. Now, whenever you're recording your face for the tracking, if you can, put it on a tripod so there's not too much movement going on. You want to make sure your footage is in focus. You want to make sure the lighting is good. You want to make sure there's not too much motion blur, anything that's going to mess up that track and cause it to give you a shaky result. So once you have your footage in, this is just me looking in different directions. It'll give a good show of the perspective once we track it on. First thing you want to do, grab a masking tool, specifically a circular masking tool. So hold down Alt on your keyboard and just click up here until you have this ellipse tool. You can also just click Q, click and drag this over your face. If it creates a shape like this, just Control Z that, select this layer, and then go ahead and redraw that. So just draw a circle around your face. All right, now we're gonna right click on this footage here and I'm gonna go to Recompose. I'm just gonna name this Face Ready. And I'm going to click Move All Attributes into the new composition and click OK. So now back in our project bin here, you're going to see the Face Ready composition, which we created. I'm just going to click and drag this into a new comp. So now let's right click on here. We're going to go to Track and Stabilize, and we're going to track the camera. The reason we drew this circle around our face is that way the tracking system is only going to focus around this area. We don't need to track the background. We don't need to track any of the movement. We only want to focus all the computing power right onto our face so we have the best possible track. All right, so once the 3D tracking process is finished, here's what it should look like. A bunch of X's on your face. And if you have a bunch of X's all over the place, that means you have a good result. So this is looking pretty good. Nice, healthy track. Now we can double click in here and we can just click M on this layer and just delete the mask because we don't need to isolate that anymore. So click back on this little tab here to go back to your main composition. And if you select here in your effect controls and you grab that 3D camera tracker, that's how you get these to show up again in case they're not showing anymore. So you have all these little X's. Let's start putting some tracking points on here. So find a place in the footage. I'm going to pick like the middle of my forehead here. Right click and click Create Solid and Camera. Now, if you click play, you should have a square which is connected to your face. If for any reason at this point you don't have a smooth result, it could be because of the footage that you're trying to do this on. So make sure again you listen to those tips I had at the beginning where I said no motion blur, good lighting, etc. That way you can have the track solid nice and smooth on your face. So this is pointing a little bit up, so I'm even just going to pop in here and I'm going to grab the orientation and just kind of just try and straighten that out a bit. I'm going to right click on this track solid. I'm going to rename this to Face Track Info. And now it's just easy as bringing in our Element 3D object that we made earlier. So I'll pop back into my other composition where I set this up. Here's the solid. I'm going to right click and rename this to Helmet. And I'm going to Control C to copy just the helmet layer. We don't need the camera. And I'm going to paste this into our new composition. So here's our helmet. And for some reason, this is still flipped upside down. Go up to my effect controls and then in World Transform, I'm just going to open up the rotation and I'm going to sort that out. Now all we need to do is link the 3D object that we have here to our face tracking info. And this is actually pretty easy to do. So if you press play, you'll see this is already going to be moving with the 3D tracker camera that we created earlier. So we're already off to a good start. First off, let's hide the visibility of this square. We only need the layer in there, but we don't need to see it in the scene. So click the little eyeball. All right, now because it's a little bit annoying to change around all the parameters with this world transform thing here, what we can do is we can just click open group 1. We can go to create group null and we can click create. So this now creates this little group 1 null controller. I'm going to right click and rename this to helmet control. This essentially is just a normal layer which we can change around and it changes the positioning of the helmet. So that's going to be pretty useful. Now we just need to link the position of this null to our tracking info. You can actually just grab this little pick whip tool here. It's just a little squiggly. If you're not seeing that, try clicking toggle switches and modes. I think it's always there. Click and drag that from helmet control onto face track info. Click away. So once you've linked it, you can open up your position, your transform here. Just click reset. And I'm going to grab this anchor point and I'm going to start to align this onto my face. And now if I press play, the tracking on my face here is pretty good. I just need to scale it up, make it look a bit better. So I'll take my scale, bump that up, and then still using my anchor point, and it's starting to look pretty cool. If you want to see your face through here, you can even go back to your Element 3D, your scene setup, and wherever the glass is on this model, if you do have a kind of screen over whatever you're using, I'm going to scroll down all the way here to advanced with this selected, and I'm going to change this blending mode to screen, and now we can see through it. If you want, you can even take this little force opacity, maybe just opacity it down, and there you go. Now I can see my face through the screen, which is pretty awesome. And that kind of gives me a good little understanding of where I need to put this. So maybe I'll anchor point it over a bit more. So that's just the basic setup of how you can take a 3D object using Element 3D plugin for After Effects and how you can track it onto your face. Now we're going to talk about customizing this. So what I'm going to show you first is I'm going to show you how to change some of the options with Element 3D here just to make this look flashy and different. Next, what I'm going to show you is using your 3D software. I'm going to use C4D, you can use Blender to create a different face mask all from scratch, just using Kitbash little bits and parts. Then we're going to go into Spark AR and we're going to turn whatever we make into an Instagram filter. You guys can upload them, publish them, and share them with whoever follows you. So I think one of the coolest ways to customize these 3D objects that you're seeing here is by creating custom textures. Quick little side note, since we have all the 3D tracking set up here, if you guys have any downloaded glitch transitions or kind of HUD effects that you can get, if you just search for green screen HUD or glitch overlay, glitch texture, you can find a bunch of these. You can drag this into your scene here, and all you need to do is make sure that this is a 3D layer. So click toggle switches and modes. You'll see this little 3D cube. Click that. Let's scale this down. So I'll click S. And then let's change the blending mode. So toggle switches and modes, put it on add. And now you'll see that this is tracked in with your scene. So let's go to maybe a part where I'm turning my head. And there you go. You can use this 3D camera tracker to just bring in a bunch of different elements other than 3D and have that still tracked in. So you can do so much with that, but we'll just leave the customization on your end. I want to show you the essentials. So next one I want to show you, I'm going to go and create a new composition here just to keep it all organized. So in our project bin, click this new comp button. Let's name this custom glitch texture and click OK. And then I'm going to open up that folder where I have all these saved glitched overlays. I'll leave a link below to some if you want to check them out. I'm just going to start selecting some and then dragging them in. So I'm holding down Control on my keyboard and I'm just grabbing a bunch of different ones that I think look cool. Like that, I'm going to click and drag them into the comp. Now these are all 4K. This is a 1920 by 1080 project. So I'm going to right click, transform, and fit to comp. And then they're all in line, so I'm just gonna kind of make them. I also have some of these HUD elements. Again, these are all things that you can just search on Google. So I'll drag some of these in, some circles. I'm even just gonna hide the glitches for now. We'll revisit that, but I wanna just start with a simple little HUD display. So go back to our main composition here. Now let's drag that HUD layer in. And now back in our project bin, let's grab custom glitch textures, drag this in. Here's what that's looking like. If you make this a 3D layer, again, just checking on this cube, you'll have this tracked on to the outside of the scene, which looks pretty cool in of itself, but we can even take that a step further. Switch this off. We don't want this to be 3D for now. We're gonna click on our helmet again. We're gonna go up to our effect controls. For our Element 3D settings here, you have this custom layers. You can open up custom texture maps and even custom text and masks. So custom texture map, layer 1, we're going to select this drop down and we're going to put it on our custom glitch text layer here. And we can even just hide the visibility here. But let's go back to scene setup here for our helmet. And now selecting the glass of this helmet, which is right here, just says glass cracks. You'll see if I scroll down for textures, you're going to see diffuse, specular, normal, and illumination. I'm going to go to diffuse and I'm going to click this little drop down here and I'm going to select custom layer 1. And click OK. I'm also going to do that with specular. Now let's click OK. As you can see, our HUD is on our helmet. Now the only issue is our HUD is actually kind of to the side. We want it to be right on the middle of the helmet. It's kind of on the left ear. So let's go back into the scene setup. If you click back on here, you're going to see these little offset, UV offset buttons. Let's just try and drag this to the left and see if that does anything. All right, so we kind of have it almost over my face. So let's keep trying to work with that a bit. All right, -1.25 looks like it's it. So let's set that for the specular as well. And check out how cool that is. Now we have the HUD tracked onto the actual mesh of our 3D model here. All right, guys, and other than that, a few other details we're gonna quickly go by. If you need to cover up anything that shouldn't be showing, like for example this, just click Control-Shift-D to cut out a piece of the face, and then Control-D to duplicate it. Take that piece of the face, mask around it so that it's covering the spot that you're trying to cover. To blend it in, just click M and add a bit of feather. And then I added a little bit of a manual mask track, as you can see, but nothing crazy. If you really need to, you could always rotoscope it. I did the exact same thing with a blue solid here. This is what it looks like just with the face over top. I went to layer, new solid, created a light blue solid, and again, did the same exact things, just masked over top of it, and then softened up the mask by adding a bit of a feather. The only other things you need to know is if you go in your effect controls for Element 3D, you can go through render settings and just kind of mess around with these, try and get the best look you want for your helmet here. I went and I turned on ray tracing just to add some of these realistic shadows under ambient occlusion. I also created another new solid, so layer, new solid, made it black, and just made a little mask around my neck, put the blending mode on soft light, so I have a little shadow darkening up underneath where the helmet would be. So let's get into customizing the 3D model, because I think that's more important. You don't always want to be using other people's models, even if they are letting you use them for free. So I went on TurboSquid, I downloaded these free Kitbash parts. Let me hop into Cinema 4D, import those, and show you how we can combine these parts with any other 3D model. So here's the helmet that we used before. Here's all the little parts. Let's just start customizing. So I'm going to zoom in here and just find some cool stuff. Let's maybe delete the skull, and we can take everything else that's here and just start tossing that on. So I'm gonna grab my selection tool and I'll just go like that. Let's go ahead and just group that little selection together. So I'm gonna Alt-G and I'm gonna name this jaw parts, and we'll click and we'll take this out of this null. Go ahead and grab our scaling tool and we'll just scale this up. So ultimately what I'm trying to show you is just taking different parts, using the basics, things like scaling and just being able to select in your 3D software, and then combining it with these models, or, you know, making things from scratch. Duplicate that, Control-C, Control-V, have those coming out the sides or something, kind of just freestyling something together. And there you go. So you guys get the idea. Once you made the adjustments you want, you can just delete all the excess, file export OBJ, or even if you're using Cinema 4D like me, you can file export as a C4D project file, then bring that right back into Element 3D. That's why I like working with C4D, because it has that Element 3D project file compatibility. You don't have to use fancy Kitbash stuff. You guys could even just use these like primitives that are built in, just showing you how you can import things in, how you can customize, just from the bare essential basic way. Now let's start in Spark AR, and I'm going to show you how to make some filters. And instead of using this, the one I'm going to show you for the tutorial is actually this little Stormtrooper helmet. Just to switch it up, show you a few different things that you can do. So here is the Stormtrooper 3D model that I customized. I'm going to bring this model into Spark AR. It's not going to look as fancy because we're doing some nice Octane render textures. It's going to look pretty similar. Here's a quick little time lapse how I customized this. Again, I use C4D, but you can do this with any 3D software. I just selected this helmet that I found for free. I went into this points mode to show the lines. And I kind of wanted to cut away one of the eyes, because again, this is going to be a filter. So I wanted you to be able to see your eye through this mask. You can select these points just with the selection tool, like that. And then you can literally just click delete. And that's all I did to be able to cut away that chunk of the mask to kind of make these a little more jagged. You can also right click on C4D, just grab the knife tool, and you can just draw like this, and it kind of cuts up the geometry. And then I also projected these cool kind of traditional Star Wars tattoos onto this mask. And all I did for that was I created a new texture. Here's the image that I'm using, and then I just projected it over with the alpha. You take that concept that I just showed you, do it with any other mask, bring it back into Element 3D and do the same exact thing where you have the jagged kind of eye showing, or any other creative cool stuff you guys come up with. But either way, let's get into Spark AR. Let's turn this into an Instagram filter that we can share. First, you're going to need to download Spark AR. It's very easy. It's 100% free. Just follow what you see on the screen here. Once you've done that, open it up. Another side note, if you are a Windows user, you're going to have to download iTunes to be able to install this. They use like an iTunes mirroring for you connect your iPhone with it, something like that. Once you open up Spark AR, it's actually a really great software owned by Facebook as well. They have a bunch of little preset templates here. So if you want to start off with something like eye color, you can. Then we'll add the 3D object around it. So let's do that. We'll pick this eye color template. Of course, this is optional. You guys don't have to change your eyes. It's just showing a few different things. There's so much with the Spark AR software here that that I'm really just going to try and show you the basics. But if you guys do enjoy this, if you like seeing videos, at the end I make it in the Instagram filter. If you want to see some Spark AR stuff, let me know in the comments. Let's change the eyes. We're adding a little stormtrooper here, so let's give him some red eyes. Just select eye color. Over here on the right for iris, I'm just going to make this red. And there you go, easy as that. They have the template all good to go. Let's take this and just expand it up so we can see what we're doing. All right, now let's bring in our Stormtrooper helmet or whatever sci-fi helmet you guys created in your 3D software, found on the internet, whatever it is you want to put in here. They even have a little library here. So for those of you who just are interested in the filters, you don't even have to touch a 3D software. You could always just use some of the 3D objects that they have in here. That's really nice to use. It's awesome to see that they have that. They also have different textures here, patch assets, which is kind of like plugins, other stuff, music. So really great software all around. Click add assets, click import from computer. Now, since we're putting a helmet over someone's head, you need to do one little setup beforehand. You need to go to this website here and you just need to download these face references. This will give you two folders, mesh and textures. Just go to mesh and open up head occluder. Once that's loaded into your assets here, let's go ahead and add a facial track. So click add objects and click face tracker, insert. Open up device, open up focal distance, and here is our face tracker. This one's for the eyes, so we'll keep that separate. Grab face tracker 1, take your head occluder, click and drag it onto face tracker 1. Now you have this 3D head that's kind of in the plane, and that now allows us to place our helmet over top of that. So right click if you want to rotate, by the way. The controls are really easy. Zoom, scroll wheel, that's all you really need to know. Now let's add whatever face mask or helmet we want. So click add asset again, import from computer. Depending on what asset you use, you may need to reduce the file size of it. This Stormtrooper 3D object, you'll see it's 18 megabytes. If I open this in, it's going to give you this warning here. If you click learn more, it'll give you info on how to fix that. If you guys are using Blender for free, it says triangle count exceeds the recommended limit. Use the Spark AR toolkit for Blender to reduce it. So Blender users, click the link below if you want to do that fix. It's very fast. It's easy. You can do it in like 2 minutes. Here's how I did it in C4D. You just add a little polygon reduction, take your object, a child of the polygon reduction, connect and delete, export, and you're good to go. So if you do a quick Google search of reducing the triangles of a 3D object for whatever 3D software you're using, you can find it very fast and easy. So let me bring in the fixed lower file size version. This one, cracked helm reduced size. So take your helmet or your face mask, drag that onto your new face tracker 1. Now you'll see that tracked onto our face. You just need to transform this a bit so it's over top of this head occluder here. So quick little rundown. Click R to bring up the rotation tool, click T to bring up the scaling tool, and then click E to bring up the transform tool. That's really all you need to know. Also, we can pause this for now, grab this axis and move it in. Let's click again T, scale it up, E, move it back. There you go. Now you can see the eye poking through there, pretty cool. And then just give that a little play, see how that's looking. All right, so you can see it's not really covering his head as much. So you can either scale. All right, so that's pretty good. You can also set your camera to whatever webcam you have set up, but I'm using it to record now, so I just won't do that. Now comes the texturing part of this. So we have that all set up and scaled. Now we can just texture it. To texture, let's just click on this helmet 3 here. Let's click on the helmet. And over on the right, it's going to show you what materials are being used. So since we want to add decals, these tattoos over top of them, I'll do the same thing I showed you in C4D. I'll select the helmet, Control C, Control V to paste it. And you need to grab the helmet and just drag it out of here because for some reason it pastes all of it. Click confirm. Now we can delete this. Right click and rename this to decals. So this is going to be the decals here. And we need it to match up with this helmet. So on the right, you'll see position over here. We click helmet. Here's the position of the helmet. So we can just copy and paste those. So make your position 0, 0.004. And the rest of these look like they're 0. So that's pretty easy. If you need to, you could always just select a value, Control C and Control V it. Scale is all 1. And rotation is all 0. All right, so those are all lined up. I'm going to click T here, and I'm going to scale up the decal layer so it's a little bit bigger. Now let's add in a custom texture for this. So for the materials on the right, let's just click the drop down, click create new material. And here it is down in this materials folder. So select that new material. I'm actually going to rename that to decals. And then in here, same exact thing. So go to diffuse, choose from file, and load in your image. Now, one thing you're going to need to do to make this easier, you'll see how this is a white background. What I did was I just opened this image up in Photoshop. So open in Photoshop, and then I just grabbed my magic selection tool. So over here, right clicked on the background layer, layer from background, click in the white, and then just delete. That way I just got rid of the background, so this is transparent, and then I just file, save as, and I save this as a PNG. So that way when we come back in here, we can load in the PNG file this time. So this one with the transparent background, you see here it's showing on our face mask, but let's set up the alpha. So scrolling down here, blend mode alpha. If you guys want to change around how this is projected, just select your material. Above where it says your blend mode alpha, you'll see this tile and offset tiling options. If you just make like a 0.2 increment, you'll see how that changes around, and you can get some different variations of whatever is being projected. If you put this up to like 2 though, it might disappear. So it depends on your UV map. So pretty cool. That's why I gave you this example instead of the original sci-fi helmet, because I already showed you how to add the materials to that, but I never showed you how to really customize them. So I used this example, some different ways of customizing. Hopefully that'll help your ideas run a little bit more. Now to finish this off, there's only 2 more steps. Step number 1 being, let's make this eye glow. So I told you earlier that this is just a plane that I kind of put in that little eye slot. So it's in its own separate area, so we can give it its own separate material. So you'll see over here in materials, let's create a new material for that as well. And we'll name that red glow. Color, of course, just make it red, and there you go. And if you want, you can kind of make it see-through like I did. So I went to specular. So in my blending mode here, I just put that on add. Last thing I did, and I said I didn't want to get too in depth, but just one more cool little thing is I added a voice changer. So right click on microphone here, click add, and then click speaker. Now click on speaker, and on the right, you'll see this little audio with the yellow arrow. Click that to open up this patch editor. Drag in your microphone, and you can do some cool stuff with this. Just click, drag out, go to audio, and then you can add any audio adjustments. So I added a pitch shifter. I made the adjustment -6, and then take that and connect it to the speaker. Now, if you want to see what that sounds like, select your microphone. Over here on the right, preview, just, and there you go. And there you go. I won't say too much because I don't want my speakers and microphone to explode because they're kind of close to each other. But that's all you really need to do. Just turn the preview back to none. You guys can mess around with that, do some cool stuff. There's so many cool things in this software. I'm pretty excited about that. If you do want to see more stuff like that, just let me know. To end this all off, let me show you how we can export this, get it to Instagram. All you need to do is file, upload, and export. This should tell you that your file is good to go. If not, of course, you need to downscale it in your 3D software. Just click publish a new effect, click upload. It's going to open up this Spark AR. Going to open up this Spark AR hub here so you can name it. Make sure that your Instagram is connected to your Facebook. So fill out all the little info for the demo video. This is pretty cool. If you just click save over here in the top right, you guys will get a little notification to your Instagram. You can open it up and just test it right in your phone there. What I did was I took this video with that little testing option, and then I just saved that video in the top right in Instagram, uploaded that to Dropbox on my phone, opened it in Dropbox on my computer, and then just uploaded it from there. Here's the little preview video. So whenever you open this up, this is what people will see when they're going to download. So here's what this looks like. You can choose a thumbnail off of this video. For your upload file here, I just made this little thumbnail in Photoshop. It's just 200 by 200, just a little icon. Upload that. It takes a little bit to review, but mine was already up within like a few hours after I uploaded it for the review. And that's it, guys. I hope you do enjoy. Let me know how you feel about the augmented reality stuff. I think it's really cool. And it's cool VFX that the average person can do if you just get a little bit into 3D. And we're not doing the craziest of 3D here. That's what I like about it. We're using basic import tools. We're doing like a few things that you can learn in 3D within the first day of getting a 3D software. Great projects to introduce you into this, to get the ball rolling, and then to open doors in the future to a lot more stuff going forward. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next one.